Welcome to Shallow. Join us as we explore the topics that are always on our minds. From beauty and wellness trends to balancing our careers and ambitions, these conversations fill our WhatsApp inboxes and social media feeds. We're diving into pop culture and asking the question, is it really that deep?
In today's episode, we're diving into something we've been dying to talk about, Taylor Swift. Now, it's no secret that Phoebe and I are fans, and honestly, it's hard to fit everything about her into one episode. So we're starting with an overall look at her incredible journey. We'll touch on her evolution from her early country roots to her global pop dominance. Let's go.
So it's Lucy's birthday today. How old are you, Lucy?
I'm 28.
She's made it. And it's the 13th episode. So if you know, you know. There was only one thing we could discuss today. And what is that thing, Luce?
That's Taylor Swift. And you better have an entire bottle of vodka ready for those shots because I will be talking about her for the entire episode.
Shut. Yeah, you're going to need them ready. Tay. Yeah, we'll be honest. If you're looking for a solidly nuanced conversation, this probably won't be it. We're both fans, but we're going to give it a good old go.
We are fans, and I'll say it now, Taylor Swift is really that deep.
It is that deep.
And it really won't stop us talking about it for hours on end. And if you're not a fan, then you should probably skip this one.
Yeah, probably a good time to turn it off. Okay, when did your fan journey begin though, Luce? Because you're all kind of like the OG, probably amongst the two of us, so...
I mean, I was kind of like pushing 11, 12 years old, kind of listening to debut in my room. I kind of just started secondary school, which is high school, listening to, Tim McGraw, Picture to Burn. Yeah, there's like a really funny anecdote of when I was listening to her album one of the first few times, and I had like one of those like really old school CD players.
Yeah.
And, I think I just had it on repeat. I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was like doing handstands and eating marshmallows, and I ate like so many marshmallows in one go, and I felt really sick, and that's like really intertwined with the debut album for me.
Marshmallow and handstands.
But yeah, I feel like it was kind of, that story is kind of nuanced with still being kind of like a child, but kind of listening to an album for the first time that I thought, no, this is me, and this is something that I like, and not what my family has kind of like pushed onto me because that's what they listen to, like Elvis Presley or the Beatles, which I also really love, but I love them because my mum and dad love them.
Yeah.
Whereas Taylor Swift
felt like yours.
Is mine. She's
mine.
The best thing that's ever been mine.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think a lot of kind of young girls, that was their like personal discovery of someone a similar age to them, writing about their experiences, and they could kind of see themselves in her. And I think that was kind of like the ultimate gateway to Taylor. I was definitely much more down the track. I obviously knew who she was, especially when Red came out, but Reputation was my gateway album. That's when I really became a proper fan. Big rap girly. But we should probably go back to the start and kind of like briefly chart her rise. We'll stop at kind of each era and give our thoughts, but Luce, as the OG among us, kick us off.
If you're a fan of Taylor Swift and you're listening to this, you're probably going to know all of this information that I'm going to tell you. But I always think it's quite nice to like kind of reread it. Like when I was reading the Taylor Swift Style book by Sarah Chappelle, and if you haven't read that,
read it,
or you haven't got it, please get it. It's so good. It goes through like her entire
she's great
fashion history. But yeah, she kind of goes through her history again, and you're kind of revisiting those things, and it's really, really lovely. So anyway, so Taylor was born on December 13th, 1989 in Reading, Pennsylvania, on a Christmas tree farm. Her family moved to Nashville so she could focus on her singing and songwriting career, and at just 14 she signed with Sony and ATV as a songwriter. And around that time Scott Borchetta approached her with his new label Big Machine Records, and that was a really big time in her life. I mean, she's only in the past few years recently moved on from Big Machine Records. She's only recently moved on from Big Machine Records to Sony Music.
Yeah,
we will get into that. And yeah, she dropped her debut single Tim McGraw in 2006.
Oh my god, baby Taylor. I think also, like, goes without saying, there's a lot more nuance to that situation, but we're going to keep it light touch. We've got to keep it to 30 minutes. But it was such a big breakthrough year for her. I think when she got that foot in the door with Scott and he signed her to her new label, it was just, she really came through in the US. She won Breakthrough Video of the Year for Tim McGraw at the CMT Music Awards. And then by 2008, she released Fearless, which obviously went straight to number one with Love Story, became a huge hit and like really, really broke her in the UK. So at this point, it was all cowboy boots, floral summer dresses, very down-to-earth, approachable. And I think her music at this time really was, you know, for the young girls, people of a similar age of her, right?
I remember absolutely smashing Love Story when it first came out, and I was a little bit of a nerd in school, and one of my friends that I shared maths class with her, and we actually filmed a little snippet from Love Story, and it was me, and we went and raided like the dress up box. I think it was like in drama or something, they had like a box and they had all these kind of different outfits, and they had one that was kind of like Tudorish or like kind of like old school like Taylor vibes, and like I remember putting it on, and we went in our break time and she filmed me like coming down the steps in PE, and I was like miming the words. Oh my god, so bait. And then we did this like little dance in the sports hall as well, and she filmed that, you know, kind of like she does in the music video, and that is somewhere on YouTube. I really want to
dig that one out.
I really want to see it, but I don't know where it is, and it would absolutely have me howling. I was probably like 12, 13.
That's just what you do though, that at that age. I always remember doing things like that at school where you'd go out, you know, you'd raid the drama fucking costume box and you'd make a stupid video. It really goes back to what you said at the start though, at this point with her music. I don't know if there was really anyone else kind of singing about kind of teenage girlhood for other teenage girls. Obviously you kind of had Britney, but it was all quite sexualized and, you know, I don't know how almost related, like they were bangers, but they almost kind of, well, maybe you could, but I personally couldn't see myself like reflected
it's like
in
old
her.
School pop, like Baby Hit Me One More Time. Do you know what I mean? Like I was listening to that when I was 5, but yeah, like it's not something, you know, like Taylor Swift opens her diary and she tells you what she's feeling inside, which is what a lot of teenage girls want to hear because they're also feeling those same things.
Yeah,
and that's how relatable she is. And you know, obviously breaking into country was a real hard thing to do as a real young woman. You had like a lot of older stars like who were in their 40s and 50s, and Taylor Swift was this like 17-year-old that just like hopped onto the scene, you know, super like full of life. Like, you know, when she first tried to get signed, she was like taking a CD round all the record houses and you know, just trying to get that, but she was like gunning for it from the very start. And you know, when people kind of talk about her now and like, oh, she's kind of, you know, so successful, she's a billionaire, like, oh, you know, I'm just kind of like, well, have you ever seen how she actually got there? Because she really wasn't handed this. Like her parents really helped her and like moved her family and stuff, but it was her kind of tenacity and will to want to do this. Like, I think she is kind of like a one of a kind kind of person, and I'll kind of talk about her personality as well, because I think it's really important, because she's so relatable as a person, but then she is also just like, I completely don't understand how she does it. Like, she has this kind of magnetic energy around her that I don't think many people have or have had since. And I think it's similar in the way that how Elvis Presley kind of had that kind of, that aura of him, like, you know, that kind of star quality. You know, on the X Factor, you'd be like, oh, you've got star quality, but I just genuinely don't think you realise what that is until you come across somebody like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and I think she had that kind of the drive from, you know, almost 12, 13 years old to be like, I want this.
She was singing the national anthem at 11.
Yeah, like, I'm going to go out and do this. And you are right, like, we can't dismiss the work her parents must have put in and how much they were like, you know, we're going to move our lives, we're going to move our house, we're going to, you know, we're going to put everything into making this happen for you. But at the same time, I think it's very fair to say that's all well and good, but would that have happened without her tenacity, her drive to kind of be like, I'm going to go and physically knock on doors of record labels and hand over my demo?
Exactly. And, you know, you can give a child a guitar, it doesn't mean that they're going to play it. They're going to play it or write music or then be like, okay, this is all I want to do forever. I think this is a good way to segue into what happened with the 2009 VMAs.
Yes, let's fast forward to there.
She was kind of like America's sweetheart up until this point. And, you know, she was afterwards, but I think in her mind, you know, something kind of changed here. And if you don't know what the 2009 VMA moment is, Kanye West got up on stage while she was accepting her award for Best Music Video and told the audience that Beyonce should have won it for Single Ladies.
Yes. So Taylor described this in her Miss Americana documentary as an incredibly formative moment for her. A lot of that documentary kind of hinges around that moment, which kind of surprised me. It obviously really must have stuck in her brain. And she goes on to talk about how when someone's built an entire belief system off someone clapping, when she felt as though people were booing her, even though they were booing him, it was an incredibly, pivotal moment in her life. But by 2010, by 2010, she then swept the Grammys. She won Album of the Year, Best Female Country Vocal Performance, Best Country Song, and Best Country Album. And then she went to kick off her Speak Now tour. Did you go to the Speak Now tour at all?
No, I didn't go to any of her earlier tours until Red kind of kicked off. I think for one, I was a little bit too young. And two, like, I'm from Hull, so if anyone doesn't know where that is, that's in East Yorkshire, which is quite a long way from London. And she wasn't at the point in her career where she was, like, doing shows in Manchester or Liverpool. You know, I think I went to London maybe when I was, like, 8 or 9 and saw, like, Big Ben and stuff like that. But London seemed like a very far away land. And,
yes.
like, you know, my parents didn't have, like, a massive amount of disposable cash to let me go to London and go to the Fearless tour and get a hotel. You know, all those things that kind of come with going to tours. But I did go to her Red tour.
So going on to Red, it's kind of a bit of a transitional moment for her. I think in my mind, Red feels very different to the ones that came before, even though it's technically billed as a kind of like country pop album. But I think aesthetically, there was a bit of a shift when it came to Red. It felt, you know, it was almost a bit hipster. It was quite high-waisted shorts, bowler hat. She kind of really coins the like red lipstick of it all and like fully starts leaning into this like every album, every era is going to be a reinvention.
Yeah, and I always kind of think of Red as her kind of like, she's easing us in. She's like, I think I remember at the time being like, she's going to go full pop here because like she's trickling it in. And I have to admit, like, I'm a country girl and like I discovered her because she's a country artist. And when Red dropped, I was like, oh my God, she's never going to do country again. Like this is the start of the end. And in a way it kind of was. But yeah, I absolutely love Red. I went to the 2012 Red tour, me and 3 friends, and we all actually dressed up as each era. So I went as Red. I had red jeans, a striped white top, and some brogues, classic. And my other friend went as Fearless. She had like a gold dress on. Another one had the literal like, you know, the purple Speak Now dress. And then one of my other friends had the debut Pictures to Burn outfit on with the big knee-high boots and black dress. And you know what? We were already foreshadowing what was coming.
Yeah, the Eras tour. Let's go. During this time, she obviously, I believe it was during the Red era, she kind of dates Harry Styles. And also a kind of feud with Katy Perry rolled around where basically she told Rolling Stone.
That was crazy.
This was a bit of a moment. This was a real pop culture moment. And she basically told Rolling Stone that she basically tried to sabotage an entire arena tour. She tried to hire a bunch of people out from under me. And obviously, look, we know they're back in a good place now, so not want to dwell on that
Did she say
much.
something about like being a wolf in sheep's clothing?
I think Katy Perry tweeted something like, watch out for the Regina George in sheep's clothing. I don't know that verbatim, but it was something along those lines.
I remember now, yeah.
Which is a bit savage, but I do fully remember this as like a really big moment, like a big messy moment in pop culture.
Yeah, I mean, flash forward to like the You Need to Calm Down music video with them kind of dressed as Burger and Chips, like fighting it out and hugging it out and whatever.
Definitely, which is really nice. I think the way that obviously played out, I think the fact that they very publicly kind of, I think Katy Perry sent her a physical olive branch to one of her tour shows, kind of trying to extend an olive branch. And I think obviously we've publicly seen them attend each other's shows. And well, I know Katy Perry went to the Eras tour and I think they've kind of very much buried it. Moving on from Red, she kind of goes to fully commit to pop in 1989 and she blows everything out of the water. She sells over 10 million copies. This was a big era of her like New York move, new haircut, these like chic little cords. And I think she was everywhere. For me, this was the time where like you almost couldn't get away from her. And she obviously sets out on her 1989 tour, which ends up being so, so huge.
Yeah, I'm so envious of anybody who went to the 1989 tour because, yeah, I mean, we've got the tour footage, but it's very weird and there's lots of transitions in it.
Who edited it?
Who edited that? So yeah, I'm very envious. I think one of my friends actually saw her performing a few songs off 1989 at BST Hyde Park, British Summertime. And I am so envious of that. Like, that must have been amazing.
Looked like such a good show.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like 1989 for me takes me back to kind of college, early university. You know, I was starting to go out a lot, you know, all that kind of thing. And the two-piece really was like my only thing that I would wear. And I had this specifically like black velvet two-piece that so showed a little bit of midriff, but never the belly button, you know. And I literally, that's all I would wear. If I went out, that's all I would wear. I wouldn't wear anything else.
Influence.
And I was so influenced by Taylor Swift. It was absolutely ridiculous. And if you've ever gone out with me on a night out between the ages of probably like, 16 to 20, that's all I would wear.
Yeah, fair. She loves a look.
I also think, you know, her vault tracks for this
they're really good.
Literally I think they're the best. And
Yeah.
Is It Over Now? I do have some gripe with Taylor for not putting that on the original album, because that's actually probably in one of my top 5 songs of all time. It is so good. It's just so well put together. The lyrics are amazing. It's so catchy. I know it's like a massive popular tune, but like this is why she is so big, because she just relates to literally everybody, and everybody loves her music. And that song for me is so standout.
It's great. I also think Say Don't Go was one of the biggest standouts to me, because I think when I think about how the album was kind of packaged up and marketed, and she kind of said that there was this like 80s influence to it, I think for me Say Don't Go sounds like that, a modern reinterpretation of that kind of 80s power ballad, and I really, really enjoyed that. But 2016...
Oh God, here we go.
The narrative really kind of shifted. I think she had this kind of overexposure commentary around her. Obviously in 1989, she was everywhere. I think she was doing a lot of commercial partnerships. The tour was massive. She was posting an awful lot on social media, and
she was the pop star of the moment, like she is now, but like she was what she thought at the time the peak of her career.
Yes, which is hilarious now when you think about where she is. But she kind of debuted this bleach blonde hair at the Met Gala. The infamous video of her dancing with Tom Hiddleston drops. And then obviously a lot of drama ensues. We've got Kanye West famous, leading to Snakegate, the legally recorded phone call, social media set alight with snake emojis. And she ended up taking a really big step back from everything, didn't she?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that time, and I was kind of like, you know, I did run a couple of Facebook pages, and one of the handles was actually @Swifties, and I actually changed it while I was in university. I will never forgive myself for that. Biggest mistake I've ever made. But I remember like kind of being on Facebook or Instagram, and yeah, everyone was just absolutely attacking her, and it was like a free-for-all, and Twitter was absolutely ripe, just hateful, horrible comments, and yeah, or just the snake emoji, and that was kind of gunned by Kim, right?
Yes, I think she said something about it being National Snake Day or something, and everyone kind of really jumped on that mob-like behavior and flooded the zone. I think Taylor Swift is Over party was like trending worldwide on Twitter, and I don't know, I remember being online during that time and not being her biggest fan, but thinking like, what's she actually done to deserve this?
Considering this is off the back of a music video where Kanye West has recreated women's naked bodies and put them in a large bed as a display function to make out that he is like, you know, sleeping with all these women in a row without their permission. And like, that's what we're talking about here. Yet we're calling Taylor Swift a snake. And then obviously the context comes out later on that it isn't actually the case, and they'd actually manipulated the phone calls and they'd cut it at certain points, and the full one was recorded, and everyone was like, oh shit, we made a massive mistake. And it's like, for one, this is a highly misogynistic thing from the start. Yet, of course, for some reason, it was turned on its head, and it was about attacking a woman instead.
Yeah, it felt like, even with, say, this edited footage was not edited, even with that context, it still felt aggressive and heavy-handed and just so unnecessary and just full bullying horribleness. But even now, knowing that it's obviously was edited and then this music video comes out and all the rest of it, it's just like, I can't even imagine what that must have been like for her going through that time, and almost feeling maybe like, I can't change this narrative. If I try and tell the truth, no one's going to believe me. They're going to spin it to the narrative they want to believe. And I think that must have felt incredibly tough, and she must have felt pretty powerless during that time, I would imagine.
Yeah, but you could argue that if this hadn't have happened, one of the greatest albums that had ever been made would not have been released. And what is that, Phoebe?
Reputation.
Yeah, like this album is, I remember, her dropping Look What You Made Me Do. And I was like, okay, she's doing it. She's doing the thing. Oh my God, she's dancing. Okay. And yeah, if anyone could use petty to their advantage, it's Taylor Swift. If anybody could do anything better than revenge, it's Taylor Swift.
It was so good. I mean, when the Instagram cleared, she dropped that like 3-grid video of that snake. I think I remember exactly where I was when that happened, and just losing my mind.
Don't mess with Taylor Swift. There is nothing she does better than revenge. Honestly, like this album and the tour that she then brings out for it was incredible. And okay, it didn't get nominated for any Grammys. I mean, if you've watched the Miss Americana documentary, you see how she kind of is quite upset about that, because I think this was her kind of like, fuck you moment, I'm coming back and I'm going to be better than ever. Yeah. But her reputation still was kind of on the floor. Like, people were still kind of critiquing her. They weren't liking her very much. You know, maybe the waters had calmed slightly, but, you know, she still wasn't the favourite in the public eye like she was with 1989. And I think that really had a knock-on effect for her Grammy nominations, and I think she knew that as well. But I think as an artist, I think she probably took that quite personally, in the way that, okay, I'm not doing good enough, I need to do more. Whereas I don't believe it was that. I think it was just a sign of the times.
It did feel a bit around this time that people didn't necessarily want her to succeed, and the narrative, even after she released this album, it still wasn't amazing. I think it started to heal a little bit as she took out on the road and toured the album, and we both went to that tour. It was really, really good. And I think I loved the album anyway, but I think when you see it in a live format, it really makes sense. Like, it's almost like a bit of a theatre production.
Very theatrical.
Yeah.
Lots of drama.
It was really, really good. And I don't have the stat here, but I know it broke a load of records in the US. But I think, obviously, we've kind of had that like dark moment of Reputation, and then she kind of pinballs back in the other direction with Lover. Talk about the album, and then we'll talk about her business situation. Did the album stick with you? Do you like it?
See, I do like Lover. Obviously, you know, Cruel Summer is like one of the most famous songs ever of all time, actually. I don't think it stuck with me as much as the other albums did. I think what her albums tend to do is, obviously relate to people in their lives, and I think she really is so good at writing kind of breakup songs, emotional music, kind of a little bit angry, but, you know, twisting and making it pop. And like, Lover is a very nice album. Like The Man, Miss Americana, you know, I remember listening to that and being like, this would be a good one to open the tour to. Obviously, you've got like Cornelia Street, which is like so deep in the Taylor Swift lore now that, like, you know, I'm so jealous of whoever went to the Paris sessions just before lockdown. You are a lucky person.
So lucky.
And, you know, they do release that Love Heart vinyl. And I really wanted it. I think I had it in my basket once and it just went.
They're reselling for something ridiculous online.
But yeah, I love this album. I will listen to it a lot, but I won't listen to it as much as the other ones, just because it is a bit more kind of lover, you know? Like I like it when she's going through something a bit more tumultuous.
Yeah, I think for me, this album feels the highs are very high and the lows are quite low. I think what I've done is made my own little like lover album playlist on Spotify, because there is a few songs in there that I'm not the biggest fan of, where like when I put it on and listen to it top to bottom, like I don't know if I necessarily want to hear The Man or I want to hear You Need to Calm Down. It's not to say I don't like those songs. I just
they have their place.
Yeah, like I think when I put on Lover, it's quite like
daylight.
Yeah, it's daylight. It's a bit dreamy, like afterglow, kind of. That's the mood I'm in when I want to listen to Lover. But that's not to say like I don't listen to Cruel Summer. I love Miss Americana. The Man's very fun. Obviously, we're not going to talk about me. The less said, the better. But I think this is actually an album I do play quite a lot. It sold faster than any other album released in the US that year. And I think when she's talking about it in the documentary, she very much speaks about the fact that she feels like it's the last chance before she turns 30 to like grab on to that kind of success, which is...
I remember feeling really sad when she said that.
Yeah, it's really sad.
I just didn't believe it anyway. Like, I don't think anyone was believing that but her. And I do, like, obviously I think, you know, she has her reasons for that. And it is because, you know, the industry just does chew up and spit out all of its kind of pop artists when they get to a certain age. But I always kind of felt like Taylor Swift kind of held her own for so many years that I think maybe this is just the fan in me. But, you know, she was always going to carry on the way she was.
So obviously this is around the time where her formal record label and her masters end up being sold to Scooter Braun in 2019, and she very publicly announces plans to re-record her first 6 albums to legally gain full control and ownership over her work. And she also changes record labels. She does that before she releases Lover, by the way. I remember listening to the interview where she announces that she was going to re-release these albums and thinking it was a really brave move, and I was very excited after she said that she was going to do that. Do you kind of have any thoughts on the re-recording project?
I mean, I think it goes back to her speech for Woman of the Decade at Billboard's Women in Music Awards show. That speech made me cry. She kind of acknowledges everything that we've kind of been thinking about for so long. Like, okay, she announced that she was going to re-release the albums because of XYZ, but, you know, you hadn't heard her actually like speak it out loud and go through kind of her entire career and be like, this is what I've done. This is what they're taking from me. Don't let these men do this to you. It was such a powerful feminist speech. And if you haven't listened to it, like, go onto YouTube, put it in and listen to it, because, you know, as a young woman watching that, even though you're not a pop star and you're not, you know, releasing back-to-back banger albums, like, you know, as just a woman in life, like these are the kind of things that you come up against. And somebody even as powerful with as much authority as Taylor Swift is still dealing with this day in, day out. And the kind of re-recording thing, I think it was Kelly Clarkson that said, you should re-record all your music. And then I wonder whether that, like, Taylor Swift was already doing it, or whether she was like, yeah, I fucking should actually.
I think she'd probably thought about it, but I do love that Kelly C entered the chat, because I think she's great. But I think I remember that the main thing about that speech that stood out to me, alongside just, you know, all the other incredible things that she does talk about, is the fact that she like named names. She was very blunt, very to the point. She was like, this has happened to me. And I think after Rep, you know, she hadn't done a lot of being out and about, being in public. We now know that relationship and that period of her life was very intensely private. A lot of extreme means were taken to make sure that a lot of things were stayed on lockdown. So I think for her to get up on that stage and speak for like upwards of, I think it was like 10 minutes or something, and just be very honest about where she was and where she has been and her career and the re-recording project, I thought that was quite powerful. But obviously 2020 rolls around, and it's actually quite a big year for Taylor, considering it's a global pandemic. She obviously released her documentary, which kind of all centered around her kind of political awakening as such. And we got a bit of a look behind the scenes. Obviously, we referenced this throughout the episode, so I don't know if we have to talk about it too much, but do you like the documentary?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, it's great. And I think it really, you know, everyone I've kind of spoken to who doesn't really know much about Taylor Swift, I was speaking to a guy the other day and he was like, oh yeah, I watched her Miss Americana documentary on the plane the other day and it was really good. And like, yeah, she's really cool. And I'm like, yeah, like she is. And like that's something that came out quite a while ago. And like people, you know, maybe haven't watched it or they see it on Netflix and they're just like, oh, I'll watch that later. But like, it really does give you an insight into who she is as a person. And, you know, she is quite grounded and she is quite self-aware as well. And, you know, she talks a lot about her eating disorder within 1989, and I think that's really important for young girls to see that, you know, she's not this perfect pop star that, you know, has the amazing body and has it all and all this kind of stuff. She does struggle with things and being in the limelight, and yeah, it's a really good documentary. And yeah, just releasing Folklore off the back of that was just like amazing. And then, you know, have another one like Evermore. There you go.
Oh, it was so big, and Folklore, one of my favourite Taylor Swift album, if not potentially my absolute favourite Taylor Swift album, was her kind of, she went full cottagecore, woodsy. It became the first album to sell 1 million copies in the US that year and hit number 1 on the charts. And then obviously, yeah, she wasn't done either. She, a few months later, announced Evermore, the sister album, and Folklore also wins Album of the Year at the Grammys that year, which for me didn't felt like much of a contest. It felt like it was the album of the year. So
deserved. I mean, that album was incredible. And I think when she kind of got up and did her speech for Folklore and she thanked Joe, it kind of took me back to the Miss Americana documentary where she was kind of saying, you know, for 1989 she won all these awards and she got up on stage and who did she have next to her? And then when I saw her doing the Folklore speech, like, and, you know, it's so nice to basically have Joe, who's been there writing this music with me, and, you know, it was a real emotional moment, I think, and you could really just see in her face that she was happy and she'd done something she was really, really proud of, and she had people around her, and she'd kind of got to a point in her career where, yeah, she felt comfortable. And obviously they're not together anymore. We love Travis, but I think there's something in that album that is so kind of like magical and ethereal, because it's kind of like it's a one piece of work that she's done with somebody that she spent a relationship with, like that. That must be a real special album for her.
Yeah, I mean, also on the superficial end, I just loved her outfit as well. Like, she had this, like, Oscar de la Renta floral dress on, these pink Louboutin heels, and I think it was, like, just so perfect for the era. I was obsessed with it. I loved the live performance they did of the 3 songs. I also loved the outfit she wore for the live performance. And I think also during the pandemic as well, like, it was so gratefully received, that music. It was a tough time, obviously globally, and I think to get a little gift in the form of 2 Taylor Swift albums felt very nice indeed. Gosh, 2021, Taylor's version project. She releases Fearless on April 9th, then releases Red on November 12th. So we get 2 full re-recorded albums with accompanying vault tracks. She does the rounds, especially for Red. She does a lot of promo. She obviously does the All Too Well 10-minute short film. And she kind of kicks off this real hyper-productive era, because it's also followed by her 10th studio album, Midnights, that she announced at the MTV VMAs. And speaking of outfits, what a fucking outfit. Yeah. I think it was another Oscar de la Renta sparkly number.
Oh yeah, the kind of like the jewel. Yeah. Oh my god, that was amazing. And then it was the after party outfit as well.
Yes.
I recreated that for a Swiftogeddon.
Oh my god. Oh no, you've shown me. It's so good. It's so good. It looked amazing. So let's just quickly do Midnights. Thoughts on Midnights? I know you're a big fan.
I mean, I love Midnights. I think it's an amazing album. I think it was the album that kind of pushed everyone into Taylor Swift's corner. When I was working at the time and it was released, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, and she's releasing new work, and oh my god, we're getting so much content. And it was the album that I heard everywhere, like Anti-Hero, in a shop, in a taxi, at work. People I didn't think would be listening to were listening to Bejeweled, Lavender Haze. Like, it was, I think it's such a massive album, and it was just to kind of like, I've climbed this hill and here I am, and here's this album, and yeah, you're gonna eat it.
Yeah, it was like super poppy, very digestible, very fun, and it was everywhere, especially Anti-Hero. And obviously then the Eras tour kicks off, and it is new levels of stardom that I'm not sure we've really seen before.
Yeah, I really feel like the back of Midnight made the Eras tour so popular. Suddenly everyone wanted to go to a Taylor Swift concert, and I don't say that in a kind of like gatekeepy way. I mean, like, that is impressive. Like, she went from 2016 nobody liking her to literally everyone wanting to get a ticket, wanting to go. We had the whole Ticketmaster issue in the US. It was kind of a little bit better in the UK, but still, not everyone was meant to go. Like, not everyone could go because there just wasn't enough seats, there wasn't enough shows. And how many shows has she done now?
Oh god,
how many in total is it? The Eras tour has 152 shows that she did. Wow. Which is immense.
And these shows are so long,
and it's not just a little 45-minute set. This is like a 3.5 hour long feat,
athletic feat.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's good to mention that she literally said to get ready for the Eras tour, she would be like on the treadmill, running and walking,
3
and singing
hours
for 3 hours. And when I kind of heard that, I thought, okay, of course she has to do that, but it's a little bit of the kind of Miss Americana thing with the the running and the kind of like the extremities of it. But in a way, Taylor Swift is an extreme person. You're not going to have somebody in this position of power not being an extreme person.
Well, yeah, and if you're going to do a 3.5 hour show, that's an extreme show, and you need to be in athletic shape to do that. And arguably that takes on an extreme, high-performing athlete kind of regime, because it just has to, otherwise she's not making it to the end of a show. And I think, 2023... this new level that we saw also came with 2 more highly anticipated re-recordings. We had Speak Now and 1989 that she both announced at these live shows. She became the most streamed artist globally. And obviously the Eras tour came out in cinemas, and then she released it to Disney+. It also was the year that Taylor was reported to become a billionaire. As per Forbes, Taylor Swift became a billionaire in October 2023 thanks to the earnings from her Eras tour and the value of her music catalogue. Swift is the first musician to make the billionaire ranking primarily based on her songs and performances. So obviously the billionaire status was kind of received with mixed reviews, but let's just first talk about the year that was. She also won Album of the Year for Midnights at the Grammys.
Not surprising.
And Best Pop Vocal Album. And she also, at the Grammys, released her 11th studio album, The Tortured Poets Department. Just stopping there for a second. Obviously, she announced that at the Grammys. Do you think that was the forum to do that?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think because everybody was expecting her to drop Reputation, right?
Yeah.
Reputation, Taylor's version, that is. And she just sneakily changed it to, oh no, actually I'm going to drop this double back album. And I just think it's such a Taylor Swift way of doing it. Oh, by the way, I have this that is releasing here and I'll do what I want. And yeah, I just think it's so Taylor Swift coded. What do you think?
Like, as a fan, love it. Take anything she'll give. If she wants to announce it at the Grammys, announce it at the Grammys. I think if I was maybe part of the industry that evening, I don't know how much I would have loved it. I think it's a way to kind of
platform.
Yeah, like rightly or wrongly, she made sure that the spotlight was very firmly on her that night. And part of me is like, she's worked hard, she deserves it. But I think also that night, arguably it's not just about her, it's about the industry as a whole, and it's about a lot of other people who won awards. And I think by announcing that, it is a way to kind of like...
Yeah, because I kind of forgot whatever happened.
Yeah, like I don't remember what else happened at that show. Also, I just want to stop quickly on the anthology. She obviously kind of kept Easter egging that this was a double album. I think from my perspective, I don't view this as a double album. I see this as, here's the album and here's the everything that didn't make the cut and here's the extended edition. I don't personally love the way this was marketed as a double album. I don't see it as an A-side and a B-side. I don't see it as 2 separate drops. I think, if anything, Folklore and Evermore feels like more of a double album to me. Are you kind of in a similar camp, or are you just like, knob off.
No, I would say that. I think yeah, the first half of it is very much like a very structured album, and then the rest of it is more of like, opening up a diary and just like, here's another one and another one and another one. And but I mean, I'm biased because I absolutely love this album. I really it's up there as one of my favorites.
Same.
And The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, like, I really want her to release a rock version of that. I just think it would be so cool.
Good.
Like, I just want her to release a rock album anyway. Everyone wants it. Everyone wants it. She knows everyone wants it, but she's just too much about her synth pop. She's too much of a pop girl.
Every time she like kind of dials something, especially like live performance, I think she's done it for a few of her live shows now where she's kind of like rocked something up a little bit. I always think it sounds amazing, and I'm just like, drop the rock album.
So I think we could probably talk about Taylor Swift for the next 3 years on this podcast and just make it into a complete Taylor Swift podcast, but that's not what we're here for. We're shallow podcast. We're supposed to be doing a quick deep dive into pop culture and different issues of the day. So I think we're going to have to kind of leave it there and pick it up in a different episode.
Yeah, we're going to split this in half because we've been chatting for like an hour or so already, and we try to keep these digestible and a little bit more pocket size. So we're going to carry this on in a separate episode. We're going to go into a little bit more of our personal feelings. Why is it that deep? And maybe just a little bit of questioning if there's a problematic side or not, and go into that as well. And now it's time for...
What a pile of bollocks!
It's the time of the show where we just chat shit about something insignificant that fucks us off. So, Luce, what have you got for us today?
I'm really passionate about this one, actually. Like, this one really, it hits something deep in my soul. It's people who put the big light on. I think you're a psychopath. I'm going to say it. Everyone's thinking it. I'm going to say it. If you don't have any lamps, that's even worse. And I'm looking at my friend and she knows who she is.
It is offensive.
It's offensive.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I've like been walking up to my flat and I've seen the big lights on and I'm like, I've got perfectly working lamps. Why have you got the big light on? Why are you doing this to my eyes? Like, and also it's just one of those things that like, I walk into the room, the big light's on, I instantly feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to leave. I don't want to cook my dinner in with the big light on. Are you mad?
It's so overstimulating.
It makes me feel sick. It makes me feel violently ill when you have the big light on. And my friend, she doesn't have a lamp. And I've been telling her for I don't even know how long to get a lamp. And I was like, I will find you one. I will send you a link. Like, this is unhinged, I know. But like, it takes this much. I will get you a lamp. Like, just please. Like, your flat is lovely. Where is your lamps? What's going on?
Thank you so much for listening to Shallow. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you could leave us a review. It makes a huge difference in helping others to discover the podcast. We always want to hear from you, so feel free to slide into our DMs or follow us on Instagram @shallowpod, or send us an email at shallow@boxedoff.studio. Shallow is a Boxed Off production, written and hosted by Lucy Bell and Phoebe Whittle. We'll see you next time.